Yeah.
There you
We have
go.
intro music. But it's good.
Hey.
It gets the vibes. Welcome back, DFI Podcast. Eshan and our friend Yogesh. Good to have you, sir.
Yeah.
Hey,
Glad
thanks for
to
the
be back.
invite.
Today's a great day because we have some exciting news to announce, Eshan. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So introductions first. So Yogesh and I co-founded Lumino. We've been out of stealth for a while, so that's not the news, but we co-founded Lumino last July, and we made the announcement a few days ago that we raised a $2.8 million pre-seed round from a whole bunch of TRGC, Zero Knowledge Ventures, L2IV, Zephyrus Capital, Quaker Capital Management, and Escape Velocity. So a good group of people, really are people who really understand DPINs, right? We talked about this, DPINs and decentralized AI. So super excited to make that announcement. And Yogesh and I have been, building this company for since July now. And so it's been quite a roller coaster. Happy to make a good news announcement. But yeah, that's the announcement, and we can talk about what Lumino does and decentralized AI a lot more. I know this topic has come up on the pod, but yeah, it's been quite a ride.
So excited for you guys. I mean, it's a massive runway, and it's a sort of a fertile space to be building in right now. I want to hear more about like the use cases as well. Maybe just to get started, you guys, since this is your first time joining the pod, there's a lot to unpack. You've been in tech for a long time. You've been in Web3. You've got a lot of experience. Could you just give us kind of a background of your tech background and how you finally got into Web3?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting. Amazing podcast. I've been following. I've been listening to some of the guest speakers that you've had. So really excited to be here. I have a decade worth of building large scale distributed systems and infrastructure experience. Moved to US back in 2015. Started my career working at larger companies, moving my way down. Verizon, AWS, and then working at a Twilio, and then Tackler, which is like a much smaller company, Series B startup, and then did another startup just starting before Lumino. So been quite a ride, and different learning experiences, working at different stages of companies. I got into Web3 back in 2015. Like that was my first time moving to US. I did my first hackathon here in US in Vegas. It's called Money 2020. So that was the first time I bought my first Bitcoin as well for the hackathon. We built a POS system, so basically allows you to buy anything with your fingerprint, and you can top off your fingerprint with a Bitcoin, right? So any location that accepts our app, which is called Nix, you can just top it off and then go out and do shopping, go to gas station, like wherever your fingerprint is fingerprint sensor is accepted, you can just use that and purchase things with Bitcoin in your wallet. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a funny story. So that was the first Bitcoin I bought, and one of my teammates, like, he reached out after like 15, 20 days of hacking. I was like, hey, do you still have that Bitcoin? I had completely forgotten about that. I was like, oh yeah, I still have it. I was like, at that time I bought Bitcoin for like $300, and then he was like, yeah, hey, I can give you $330 or something like that. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, I'm making $30 profit. I'll give it to you. And that, like, yeah, I had that Bitcoin for 20 days, and then I started buying Bitcoin in 2017 once I got more involved in it, right? So there's a funny story there. But yeah, that was the start of like getting into Web3, doing my first project, and 2017, got really interested and excited about different projects. Like Cardano came out. I was just curious to like read their white paper. There was Decentralized and EOS and other projects, right? So just got into it, like reading their white papers, staking tokens, participating in airdrop, understanding how the ecosystem works. One thing I realized is that, if I want to learn about a project, I always like go and invest a small amount, like stake tokens, and then just go and learn about it, right? So yeah, and then
Smart.
came 2017, 2018, 2020, like Solana came out. Super exciting and interesting project. I read their white paper like at least like 3 or 4 times. It's very, very interesting white paper. And this just got me into crypto, and I was really excited. And that's when I wanted to work at a probably like a web 2.5 kind of a company. And that's when I, found an opportunity at TaxBit, where I was still a back-end, infrastructure engineer, but, I had to deal with like different kinds of transactions. These are like on-chain transactions coming in from different crypto exchanges. So at TaxBit, we did tax and accounting for all the digital assets. So we used to ingest all these transactions and then generate tax forms for the end users. So it was a really cool experience, working with all these, at peak tax season, we were like processing billions of transactions from these different crypto exchanges. So it was just cool to, work with different kinds of challenges, different kinds of, crypto transactions coming from different exchanges. So it's pretty cool learning there. So yeah, that's that. And then, after that, I was into Web3 gaming for a little bit. Some of them were like play to earn games like Axie Infinity and others, So I had this challenge, where anytime I had to buy any gaming token, it was always like I had to go through different bridges and, swap them and buy it from a centralized exchange such as Coinbase. And then, so like multiple steps involved to actually buy a gaming token. So that's when I decided to like, build product, it's called Quicker Pay. So basically it's an on-ramp for Web3 gaming studios. With just one click, you can just buy all the crypto tokens. Of a particular game, right? So happy to dive into that if you like, but that's like my general, like how I got into Web3 and a little bit of background about myself.
No, that's a strong background, and ironically, it looks like gaming is coming back around now that we're back in a bull market. So some people are going to keep building that space, but it's interesting, especially since you've been in the space for so long. Some of the folks that we Eshan and I both spent a lot of time in the Web2 world. You've kind of crossed that chasm. Do you get a sense that like the sort of the technology leaders in Web2, like their perceptions of Web3, are those changing over time? Like, is it still like kind of a scary, crazy blockchain crypto world, or is it becoming more mainstream now? How do you see all that playing out?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think people who understand technology like very closely, they do believe, because when you look at these things with like first principles, everything like fundamentally these are all computer science concepts, right? Like so, like decentralized, like it's like in a different way you can just call, like there are like bunch of machines in a distributed manner, right, at different locations, and then there is a challenge of network latency and bandwidth, and how do you solve those problems, right? Like how do you transfer data over network which are at different parts of the world, right? So fundamentally when you look at these problems, I think they are the same Web2 kind of problems that you're solving, but because crypto has this history where things were volatile, there were sharks, prices
Right.
going ups and down, like people have lost money, they've had some bad experiences in the beginning, right? So that is still there. I think until the time, now we have institutions here, and and the prices are stabilizing, the volatility has come down. I think the narrative will change, and also like people are trying to like people are understanding the benefits of blockchain and decentralized world, like what it can do, like transparent open systems, and storing these proofs on chain which are like immutable, right? There are so many benefits. Cryptographically you can do so many things, right? It has been done historically, but it's just there's an intersection of, you call it Web3 and crypto, and like price is associated with this. There's like a finance factor to this with technology. All of that I think will take a little bit longer to get the narrative right, and get an explode like innovation wise, as we spend more time with this. Yeah.
ZK proofs and all that. That's fair. There's more
Yes.
good math to be done
Yeah.
there. Well, Eshan, one other aspect of like you guys coming together is the process of getting to know each other, and the process of going through incubators, various programs. I don't know if you guys were part of any Y Combinator stuff or Orange DAO. If there's any lessons like for the community of folks, things that worked well in that process when you were getting started and sharing ideas, I'd be super interested to hear any opinions or stories you guys have.
Yeah, before that, I actually want to add a point to Yogesh's point, is like we view so Lumino is an AI infrastructure company, right, powered by blockchain and crypto, and we view blockchain and crypto, like Yogesh said, like another set of a new technology stack based on computer science principles, right? And so like the analogy I like to use, which I stole, by the way, I'm going to credit Tom Tungus. He's just started Theory Ventures, but he has this thing is like, people ask, why is blockchain better, right? And you can just think of blockchain. An example is like the example that he uses is, imagine blockchain is steel, right? Before steel, you had other materials to make buildings and whatever you use steel to build, right? And now you have a new technology stack. And that technology stack is going to be very useful to build new and powerful things that have never been built before, but it's not going to be applicable to every single thing in the world. We don't use steel to build every single thing in the world, right? Some things don't need steel. Cars don't need steel. We use aluminum, right? Because you want lighter, you want something that's lighter. So sometimes you're not going to use blockchain, and sometimes you're not going to use decentralized software. But the power of blockchain and the power of decentralized software is very, very high, right? And so like, and I've said this over and over again on this pod and other places, in 10 years, if things go well, we're not going to be talking about Web3, right? We're not going to be talking about all of these, new web native technologies will be just part of the web. Just like when, Twitter and Facebook and, MySpace came out in the, 2006, 2008, people were talking about Web 2.0. And by 2011, 2012, there was no Web 2.0, right? People just called it the internet. And so that's how we view it, right? And a corollary to that is like, historically, the great Web3 businesses that have been built in retail, or they have been built in adjacent to retail, like they're serving the people who are serving the retail customers, right? B2B, but serving the businesses that are serving the retail customers. The next generation of great Web3 companies, and to prove that blockchain and decentralized software really is going to be part of the internet, is for great B2B companies to be built using blockchain and decentralized software that just sell a product to another business that is not selling their product to retail crypto users. And so that is like our fundamental belief that, we know blockchain is going to be useful and decentralized software is going to be useful if, as a community, we can achieve that. And so, that's our thesis. That's what we believe in. We look in places where blockchain and crypto can improve AI infrastructure significantly. And we have, we're building one product today, but we have multiple products lined up to be built. And we'll see if that thesis is correct, right? We'll see if we can use blockchain and crypto to significantly change the way that people think about AI infrastructure.
I love it. That's a powerful thesis. And that's exactly right. I mean, we talked about that a lot of times before. People want the benefits of the reduction in friction, but they may not always necessarily want to have a crypto wallet they have to fund directly to interact with the service. The technology is coming on board to make that happen. So you guys are at the right place in the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've seen improvements.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked like the Dencun upgrade, right? L2 costs have gone down significantly. Ethereum has moved to proof of stake, right? There is Solana and Cosmos and Ethereum are all functioning ecosystems with different use cases, right? So it gives builders a lot of space to build the kind of application you want, depending on who your customers are, what your security and performance needs are, et cetera, right? So I think to build, like, I think it was hard to build the great enterprise companies powered by blockchain and crypto up until today, actually, right? Like, I think we needed the 2021, 2022 bull and crash to get to the place of where we are today, where you can build an enterprise business. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs now that we talk to that are doing something similar, where they're like, they're trying to use blockchain and decentralized software to solve a problem for other enterprises and build great B2B companies.
I love it. I mean, the enterprise and B2B space is much larger as well. So it's kind of established and it exists. So
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, but yeah. So and then to answer your previous question, right? So Yogesh and I met. We met last year, early last year, on YC co-founder search, right? Hit it off immediately. You can tell this was not planned. I'm wearing, we're wearing similar colored t-shirts. Like, looks like Yogesh is wearing maroon and I'm wearing a little salmon. So we've got similar colored t-shirts going on, right? Completely unplanned.
Unplanned.
But yeah, so you can see that. And yeah, so we went on YC co-founder search. We had like a very structured and thorough way of like getting to know each other. We met in person in San Francisco, got a coffee at Starbucks. and walked to Union Square and chatted there. And then, we were talking about Quicker Pay. He was working on Quicker Pay at that time. I was still trying to figure out what kind of business I was looking to start, right? But Ish had like very thoughtful answers around that and was like pretty honest about what he was looking to do. I was the same, I can't speak for Yogesh's experience, but I found a lot of founders who would write like one line. And it's like, okay, well, if you're going to have a serious discussion about starting a business, you can't write more than one line. You have to write more than one line on, questions like,
It's a good filter.
what are your values and cultures? Do you want to start in remote versus in person? Who are the type of founders you look up to, right? Etc. And then we started working on Quicker Pay. We did that for a bit. And then I think around May, was it May where we decided to pivot away? I don't actually remember the exact month.
Yeah. It was like we spent like April and May, working on it. And then, there were challenges, with that idea, basically it's the same idea I was talking about, right? The on-ramp for Web3 gaming studios, right? So spoke to 50 plus gaming studio founders all across the globe, had 3 customers in pipeline who wanted to do a pilot. So it's pretty interesting. Also built out an MVP. But then as we spent more time with the product, we realized, okay, there are like 3 main challenges. One, like with the payments, there's one main challenge is the problem of fraud. Second was liquidity, right? You would have to have enough liquidity to do those on-ramps and off-ramps. And then the third was there was a lot of competition in the space. We saw like there were folks like MoonPay, Transact, and so like a bunch of others who were just competing on pennies, and it's just harder to be in that space. And, partnering with different providers would just bring down our profit margins. So, considering like neither Eshan nor I had expertise in fraud or payments, we decided, we are not the right founders to build this company. It's going to take us a while to get that expertise. So we decided to pivot and had a bunch of other ideas that we were exploring together. Through the experience, we realized we work well together. So, hey, let's go out and, work on a different idea together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's when, Eshan and I went out. We were like very, like open-minded and personal. We just went out for 6 weeks straight in SF, like going to every single AI event, because we had narrowed down our idea to like AI and blockchain and then that space. And we just, started talking to different like AI founders and machine learning engineers, data scientists and others, right? And this problem of, a compute shortage, the price was very evident on one side. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we saw, all this latent compute available, like all across the globe. And it's available at 60 to 70%, like cheaper price, sometimes 90% cheaper price than what you would get on other centralized cloud providers, right? So, we decided to bridge the gap, found our first paying customer, applied to Orange DAO, which is an accelerator backed by YC. We got accepted into that. And that was the start of Lumino. That's when we decided in the month of July to incorporate and, go full time on this and, make it happen. So here we are today. That's the story of Lumino.
It's a great problem to solve. And it affects so much of what we do in so many ways. That hardware in the capital, I mean, obviously it's in the news all the time. It's a big deal. Eshan, what do you think? How does your vision kind of play out of how that should evolve?
Those events are a little bit out of order. So we got into Orange DAO and then we found our paying customer, but mostly right. So I think actually, I think one thing we should talk about, right, is for founders who are looking to start a company, and I run into this problem a lot with other founders, but don't have a co-founder and are looking for a co-founder, right? I think there's interesting stuff to talk about here because YC actually has set the co-founder search up really well, and they have some best practices. I tend to agree with a lot of them, but mostly I think it comes down to having an open mind of like, people have different experiences and they kind of act differently and talk differently based on those experiences and think differently, right? And having an open mind on like, what kind of co-founder do you want? How strict are you on things like what skills they have versus like what kind of person they are, right? So the first thing is like, you're looking for a partner. You're not looking for an employee, right? So you have to go out through things like that, right? There are skills that both people will pick up that don't have, or all 3 people will pick up that you don't have today. If you're smart and work hard, you can pick up skills, right? Skills are just a manifestation of how hard you're willing to work on something. But characteristics of a person is not something that are easily changed. So you have to look for characteristics, right? You have to look for intelligence, you have to look for perseverance. Are they willing to work hard? Are they willing to are they willing to make the sacrifices needed to start a company, right? It's not easy starting a company. You have to make personal sacrifices, and all of that, right? So I think that really getting to know the person is super important in this co-founder search. And then one thing that Yogesh and I did is we worked on Quick Repay together in April and May, got to understand how does the other person work? What's your working relationship look like? How do you speak to each other? How do you communicate? What do you prioritize, etc. Right? And so these things, I think, whether you do a project together or you start, working on an idea from day one, these are things that are important to look at when looking for a co-founder. And so there's a lot of real learnings from doing it properly and giving time and getting to know each other. We met each other's significant others.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time, in different places, sometimes in in San Mateo, sometimes in San Francisco, sometimes in other parts of the Bay, just hanging out. And talking about vision of technology, right? We weren't even set on this idea when we met. So it's how do you think about technology?
Yeah.
How do you think about business? What do you think about what you do in your free time? How do you have fun? What other random conversations, right? Sport, talk about cricket, right? Like Yogesh and I are both into cricket and stuff like that. So I think that is how you build a strong founder relationship with a person that you haven't worked with before.
It's so smart because you guys, I mean, aside from your significant others, you'll be spending maybe more time with them, building out this company and everything. So it sounds like you took some time to really get to know each other. Was there anything in particular, Yogesh, that from your background that aligned with Eshan's that you guys felt had kind of similar shared interests or similar shared passions?
Yeah, we're looking at different things, right? Before talking to Eshan, I'd spoken to I don't know, 60 plus other potential co-founders who wanted through the YC co-founder search platform. By the way, it's an amazing platform. I highly recommend if anyone is looking for a co-founder, amazing place to get started. Just looking at different sets of skills, are we both complementing each other, when there are days and all the things that Ishan mentioned, like perseverance, right? Your character, because this journey has been sometimes it's emotional, right? You go through ups and downs, and will you be able to go through that and wake up the next day and then continue working on that. So I all those things, by working together in those 2 months, we realized Ishan has those characteristics, and we're just willing to go in this, and and when there are bad times, we were also prepared. What if 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line, if there are bad days, how do we deal with that, right? So it was really good to have that clarity, from day one itself, that, hey, we are in this for a long term, and this is not a short term, 6 months, 1 year thing. We are in this for a decade. We could see that vision, when we were talking in the park, in San Mateo, we were just, discussing, and it just, clicked. So, it's good to, as John said, good to spend time, with your co-founder, because you're going to be spending, as you said, more time with your co-founder than sometimes with your family members, right? So it's always good to get to know each other better. It's $1 trillion market. Just AI training is a $600 billion by 2030. So we knew this is the big thing, and it's going to require a lot of resilience and perseverance to get there, right? So yeah, we saw those signals early on in each other, and so there we are.
We've had good days and bad days, right? We've had days where we were sitting in our office being like, what is going on right now? And the key is like you guys said, you wake up the next day and you continue the momentum, right? And we're sitting here, and this week's been a good week, and the last few weeks have been, there have been ups and downs this last few weeks as well. But we're sitting here and we're having a good time. So that's we met each other a year ago, almost exactly. and we're here a year
Yeah.
later, right?
Yeah.
So this is a very, very cool story.
Well, tell me more, Eshan. I'm curious, like, sort of how the vision will look for you guys over the next year, like problems that you think you guys want to be solving, and then maybe we can back into some technical like use cases behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned this. We're an AI infrastructure company powered by blockchain and crypto. And so what that means is, like, when you're building in the life cycle of an AI model, right, there is figuring out what model you want to build, figuring out what the problem is, right? That's like the first thing. Then, figuring out like what that solution looks like, going and collecting the data that you need to build a machine learning model, right? And I'm going to abstract all the way of like, you've already decided to build an ML model. And then you get that data and you clean that data, you pre-process that data, whatever. And then you use that data to train a model, right? And that model has some benchmarks that you've created, and then you iterate on that. And then finally you say, this model is great, I'm going to put it live in a production environment. And then customers use that model in some sort of application to do some work, right? And then that model does some predictive work. So the part of building a model is called, training, right? You are training the model on data to make the model work in a certain way. The part where the customer uses the application and your model is used to give an answer, that part is called inference. Inference basically means the model is ready and it's giving you some predictive answer. And then there's other parts of the machine learning workflow stack, right? So when we think about AI infrastructure, we think about this entire stack. So that's our vision. The first product we're building, which is the Lumino protocol, is a decentralized compute protocol to train and fine-tune AI models. Another way of thinking about this is it's a machine learning training platform that lowers cost by up to 80% using blockchain and crypto, right? So that's the first product we're building. We plan on building a decentralized inference protocol, right? A machine learning inference protocol. We plan on building infrastructure to support the use of AI agents, right? When these AI models are talking to each other all the time, right? We plan on building that, right? And so our goal is to, over time, build more and more protocols and products. I should actually say products that use decentralized software and blockchain and crypto, or only use some of those, technologies, where we can build great developer AI infrastructure tools so that developers can build AI models or anything in AI, right? Better, cheaper, faster, and a much easier user experience, right? So that's like the vision of the company, where it's not one thing, it is multiple things. And the first product we're building is a machine learning training platform for AI developers. And so that's the vision. And training, like Yogesh said, is a really, really large market. Global spend is supposed to hit $600 billion by 2030, and it's a very tough problem, right? So we have seen many decentralized compute protocols join, doing different things, whether it's AI, whether it's not AI, the last few months, right? But there's really only a handful of people focused on training, because it's a harder problem than inference, right? You've seen more companies go toward the inference route because you can get to market faster, and the technology solution is easier. But right, we care about building great products, and I think the inference product is not as important today to build than the training product. So I'll pause there and see if there's anything interesting that Yogesh, you want to add, or Wes, you want to ask on kind of that vision.
Yeah, no, yes, please. I mean, it's interesting because other folks have, if I'm understanding the space correctly, have tried to build these decentralized AI training solutions. Some of them, maybe have a spare GPU over here, you contribute it. I haven't seen successes of them doing it in a decentralized way yet. I mean, I'd be curious to hear your view of the landscape. Like, who was the next most successful project that was doing something similar? How does decentralization help? Does it reduce friction at all? I mean, you have a background in decentralized payments in the whole space. You're probably familiar with it. What's the enabler or the kind of the step change that you guys want to see?
So there is, well, specifically for AI, like for stuff like before we talk about decentralized, the as Ishan said, right, like the problem space, a lot of the people have tried to do decentralized compute. When you talk about like general compute and compute needed for AI training, they're very different, right? Like the amount of compute needed to do general compute is significantly less than what is needed for AI training. If you look at average spend, any startup like early stage startup, they're spending anywhere between $500 to $5,000 for general compute, right?
Per
Spinning
month.
up containers, running their applications and stuff like that per month, right? And when you look at AI compute, right, for AI training, people are spending anywhere between like $5,000 to $50,000 per month. So there is significant upfront cost needed to bridge this gap, right? So like our focus is to like and then so that is one thing, right? So because it's more compute intensive, it's more expensive, and it's not easily available on different cloud providers. For example, today if you go to AWS, if you want to spin up an A100, all they have is 8x A100, right? And someone who just wants like single A100 or like four A100s, they have to look at alternative options, right? And there are not too many options available out there, right? So, and we know like there are these like small to medium size compute providers, data centers. They have access, unutilized GPUs available, and we can make that configuration happen, right? If you need one GPU, two GPU, eight, like five GPUs, right? We can make that happen for you, right? So one is availability, we solve that problem, and then the second is price, right? Like these, like out of the park, like you're like at least 50 to 80% cheaper, in some cases 90% cheaper, depending upon the type of GPU that you're using, right? So we solve that problem first, and then there are some folks who have tried to do decentralized compute, but what we found is like some of them they are not very very technical. Like some of them I've seen like they've built a wrapper around Docker containers, and they're trying to do that general compute in a decentralized way, and it's just it would just break when you try to do more compute intensive jobs, right? So there's no product out there like today. There are folks who are trying to build this AI training in a decentralized way, and we are one of them, and we are aware of the challenges, and that is where like we are doing this in phases, where that this is an ongoing research and development that we have to do. Our focus is to improve, optimize those AI trainings, or work on what is available now, and then solve the problem like the main challenge with decentralized network is like transferring data over network, right? When you have when you're training
Yes.
these large language models, there's like GBs and sometimes terabytes of data, right? Like transferring this data across the network, you require different techniques, right? How would you design your algorithm that this training happens between the GPUs that are like closest to each other, and there is not too much network bandwidth required and things like that, right? So those are the kind of problems that we are trying to solve. Like our protocol will take care of these data transfer issues, and how do we optimize them and minimize the latency and things like that, right? So
That's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah,
more is coming,
like
but yeah,
checkpointing and
that's
things
where
like
we are
that to
heading.
optimize the
Yeah,
intermediate stages. Oh, that's
yeah,
fantastic. That's a great space to spend time in.
I
yeah,
think one thing
yeah,
that's interesting is
yeah,
that, I'm historically, again, not a new opinion of mine. Historically, I felt like when it comes to B2B, the Web3 and crypto community, they're like, if you just decentralize it, people will show up. And like, that's not how it works. Like, you have to go to customers and you have to show them why your product or solution is
yeah,
better than that other product or solution that they're using, solve a real pain point, and it has to be better enough that they're willing to take on switching costs, right? So like, for
Yes.
example, right, a lot of our customers use AWS or GCP, and when or they use like some other service, and we have to go and show them that, like, yes, it's cheaper, right? But but that's just not the point, right? Like, the point is that you have more availability of GPUs. You are build a great user experience. We have make sure that like your data is encrypted, and there's your data is private and secure, and it's not going to get leaked, right? Because there is a trust with GCP and AWS that your data is not going to get leaked and it's going to be stored in the right bucket, because they have been doing this for God knows how long, 10 plus years, 15 plus years, right? So when we build this product, we have to convince people that like, hey, look, we check off all of these boxes. Being cheaper is not good enough, right? The second, so you have to start with the problem space and not let's just build a decentralized network. A decentralized network is the technical solution to the problem that the customer is looking for, right? But it doesn't matter to them if it's decentralized, if it's not, if it uses blockchain, if it's not, right? Like all of these things. Those things don't matter. Building a great product and having customers using it is what's important, right? So I think fundamentally, you can go check out our website, but we care more about, what the customer problems are. And if you compare our website to other people, I feel like other people care a lot more about like, the focusing on like what Web3 investors think or what the Web3, it's less about like, let's solve the pain point for the customers and let's more like build media hype around it, right? And so we're taking the exact opposite approach now. It could be the right approach, it could be the wrong approach, it could be the right approach and we execute correctly, it could be the right approach and we don't execute correctly, right? There's so much things that can happen. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, we care about solving our customer pain point and using the technologies that are the best to do that.
Well said.
I think that's
Go ahead,
great
Yogesh,
point.
yeah.
I'll just add, like, like who are our customers? Our customers are other developers, who are like, they are not, they don't care about Web3 and decentralization, right? Like all they care about is having a great, developer experience, like being able to use those developer tools, being able to have access to like, clear documentation where, and then, when they use our SDKs, are they getting like better error messages, like, are you just giving them generic like 4xx, 5x, etc.? Are you giving them detailed, what exactly went wrong with your system? Like developers love that experience. They want to know more. They love the technology more than the entire setup itself, right? So yeah, that is what we like. If you look at our website as well, like we talk a lot about like building a great developer experience, which is like also takes care of like privacy, security, and taking care of different use cases when you use our SDK to be able to train AI models, right? Along with as Eshan said, like being cheaper and all the other features that come with using our platform.
And then the other thing
I'd love
is
to
that
ask you guys. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like, the vision for Lumino is like we're building a serverless experience, right? What that means is you don't have to worry about the compute and the GPU. So right now what happens is like somebody's like, you know what, my model is X big, has, token window size X and billions of parameters Y, and I need this GPU, right? And our thing is like, yes, you do today, that certain GPUs are, better for certain applications. But there's two things that are going on in this market. So one is that the media doesn't write about this, but you can use a lot of like less powerful GPUs than the latest fancy, shiny NVIDIA GPU to train your AI model, right? You only really need those for the largest of the large language models. And so when the media writes about like, oh, they're to train AI models, they're really talking about like the biggest of the LLMs. The second thing is like right now, all these LLMs are mostly proof of concepts. And now you're finally seeing companies use them in production environments, right? We saw, I think it was Shopify that released an LLM that they actually use internally for customer success that is being used in production. But there's still a lot of different types of AI models out there that are not LLMs, and we can basically, those models don't need the newest, the fanciest, and the shiniest NVIDIA GPUs to train on. You can train them on consumer grade GPUs. You can train them on weaker server grade GPUs. So there's two classes of GPUs. Consumer grades are the ones that you can buy off the shelf, install them in your computer. They're mainly meant for gaming, but now you can use them for AI. And then there are the server grade GPUs, which NVIDIA sells only to companies that run data centers, right? And or any sort of business that installs hardware in data centers. And you can buy those GPUs and install them in data centers for like data center usage. And so one thing, when we talk to companies and CTOs, people don't know this, right? People don't know that you can cut costs significantly and use a weaker grade GPU, and it's going to have no or minimal effect on the performance of the model. The second thing is, and then when we talk to like, really smart AI companies, like the ones who've been doing AI for a while, they're like, yeah, like I'm already using this RTX 4090 to train my model. Like I don't need the A100, like this is all like media hype, right?
Yeah.
So our thing is, let's
Give it more
abstract
time.
away
It'll get there.
compute. Let's abstract away compute. Like CPU and RAM and storage has already been abstracted away, right? Nobody knows what RAM model type you're using in the background, right? You just need X amount to be able to run things,
Yeah.
right? No one knows what type of SSD disk, or if you're even using SSD for storage, right, that is being used. But when it comes to the GPU market, people are very specific. I need X, right? And so our goal is to let's abstract away that. You give us the size of your model, you give us the other metadata, and we will figure out the best model, the best sort of GPU for you, train it and give it back to you. And you can be like, hey, performance matters to me a lot more than price matters. And then we'll be like, cool, we'll get you the top of the line GPUs, right? And you're going to say, hey, for this customer, price matters for me more than anything. I just need it to actually work, and we'll find you the GPU that the model fits on and runs perfectly well. And so like that's something else that we're trying to do, I'd say differently than what we have historically seen on the market. Of course, there's some other companies, both centralized and decentralized, doing that, but that's kind of like the vision for what the Lumino protocol looks like. Abstract away the compute, make it super easy, make it super cheap, keep it secure, and build a great product for developers.
Well, it definitely feels like the right move. Take some of the operations out of the ML ops and make it simpler.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a whole generation of front end developers that went to Vercel because it's just easy to use. Just spin up my app. I don't have to worry about the size of the web server. Just make it happen. So it makes sense for ML as well. Well, talk about the next generation of ML developers that are coming out. There's a lot of these new AI agent use cases that are getting interesting. There's like Devin was one of the concepts that was released recently, like an ML engine that was doing all the coding and it was passing agency through different bots. How much demand do you think that's going to drive in the coming years? Is it sort of new and growing, or is it still sort of a hypothetical use case for you guys?
I think it's new. I think it's growing, and I don't think it's hypothetical, right? Like, I think maybe this time last year we could have said, "Oh, we'll see if it's hypothetical or not." But I think people are super excited about AI. You can seeing a lot of productivity gains, right? And we as a startup, what we always try to do is we always try to test out new tools to see how we can increase, our individual or team productivity without having to take on massive costs, right? So I think like if there's a tool out there that makes me better at my job, right, and enables me to do more work, we care about using those tools. I haven't checked out Devin personally. I know I've spoken to a couple of people, and they're like, my job as a software engineer is actually more about thinking what to build than doing the actual coding. So that's actually a lot harder. But if you can get one person, if we think about what we want to build and then help you use Devin and Copilot and other tools to build things out faster so we can get to market faster and get feedback faster, I think that's great, right? Specifically on Devin, there are a lot of other tools that we use, right? We have the ChatGPT subscription, right? And we are looking at GitHub Copilot and other stuff to see how we can do more work in the same amount of time. But I think AI agents is like a pretty interesting topic in general, because like how does the web work today, right? Like you've got a server, let's say you're talking to like one company's doing some work, you've got a server somewhere in public cloud, you have business logic deployed to that server. The server does some logic, and then when it needs information from a third party, we make an API request to a third party, right? And then that information comes back and that logic happens. But you could imagine a world where like continuously talk to each other. There's like an AI agent for getting data, and there's an AI agent for like doing something else. And then all these AI agents, they're just making decisions themselves instead of having business logic. They're just trained on like, what they're supposed to do. And then they kind of just interact with each other. And I think one interesting thing about the internet is that like the internet's not set up for millions of AI agents to be talking to each other continuously, right? People are doing a lot of logic themselves, and then you use a third-party API whenever you need it. But if the amount of requests per second go up 100x or 1000x, we're going to need a whole bunch of new literally physical infrastructure to handle that, right? Like literally we're going to need a lot more physical infrastructure in internet and bandwidth, in storage, in RAM, in compute, right? CPU and GPU, right? So it's going to be super interesting. And then the second thing I find super interesting about AI agents is that like if AI agents are the ones who are doing like all the work for humans, you actually want to know when someone's an AI agent and when someone is like a human, right? And you want to make sure that a human is being treated as a human and an AI agent is being treated as an AI agent. And so being able to, this is where blockchain is really powerful. Being able to, like every AI agent, when they make a decision, that the proof of that decision being stored on chain so we can go back and see what decision was made and why that decision was made by the AI agent, right, is going to be really, really important. So this is where I think, like, you talk about, decentralized and blockchain. Blockchain has a power to make the future of AI much more robust and much more safe while we're using, the power of AI. So, I think, we're getting into this world. It's still a little bit early where it's unclear how all of this is going to work, but I'm pretty sure that, there's going to be a lot more, requests made by AI over and over again. And you can think about it like this. I think like Vitalik wrote about this. Imagine you're on a betting market or you're on some market, right? And you can only make $1. A human is not going to spend time to make that $1, but that AI agent has no like opportunity cost. You can spin up, as many sub agents as you want. And so that AI agent is gonna, do the work needed to make that $1, whether it's arbitrage, whether it's betting, whatever it is. But if every AI agent that it creates is doing that, that's where you see like, okay, now if you take that example and multiply it for every other example in the world of like, doing any sort of work, that's how you're gonna end up with like a world where we're gonna need a lot more infrastructure to handle all of this kind of new workloads that are coming online. And like that's
Yeah.
where Lumino
I
comes in,
think
right?
I
That's
think
why we
one
talk
interesting
about like, this is not the only product that will be blockchain and crypto, right? That we're building the training product first. We're looking at AI agents, we're looking at inference, we're looking at all of these things because we understand where the future of AI is going. And that means that like, we're going to be building a lot of these different types of products.
Yeah, well, one thing to like a clear difference between like AI agents and the AI LLM based automation is that LLM based automations, there's like a label, then there's a vector database, and you give a prompt and it gives you a response back from the vector database and a label, right? With AI agents, it's more sophisticated, it does more than that. So you of course need more more infrastructure, more compute power to deal with all those different kinds of decision making. Because now, hey, if you get a prompt which agent is not sure about, they can take different kinds of actions and make it happen basically using different kinds of developer tools, or understand what the context is, or just call another agent to do something, right? So definitely agree that there's going to be a I think we're just getting started, and there is like you'll require like agent swarms, like which each agent doing a different kind of a task, right? So imagine you like one person, even if there's like a one person who's not really like if you give a task, right, like to a person, they can only do like maybe one or two things at a time, right? They cannot do 10 different things, right? So similarly for agents, they can do one thing at a time, and then you'll need different agents to do different kinds of tasks in parallel to be able to achieve better performances and optimizations to your queries. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think we're just getting started, and it's just generally like it's really good. It's making everyone more productive, like includes everyone, like developers, engineers, and businesses and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, there's a lot of work to do. Eshan, could you give any perspective over the next few months? I don't know if you guys have any open headcount or if there's anything folks should be doing to get engaged with Lumino. We should make some folks aware about.
Yeah. So first thing is we are hiring. We are hiring a lot of people, but mostly focused on engineering and crypto economics, right? So if anyone is listening to this pod or anyone knows a friend, right, you want to help out, come work with us to build this, mission that we are, that we're send out the link to your friends. The website is Lumino Labs. We're hiring very, very strong generalist software engineers, anyone with AI infrastructure, building machine learning, training or inference pipelines, and then anyone who's worked on any sort of compilers, and any sort of Web3 protocols. So those are the backgrounds that we're trying to look for. And then, of course, anyone who has a crypto economic background. So that's the biggest way that that you can help us out is join us, or send it to your friend and tell them to join us.
Well, congratulations, Yogesh. I'm so excited for you and Eshan. That's a big milestone, and there's a lot of good work to do. So kudos to you guys, and good karma for the next few months as you guys start building more.
Yes, thank you. And this was
Awesome.
fun. Like
Thank you.
good chat. Happy to talk about Lumino and decentralized AI. Yeah, and thanks for making this happen, getting all three of us on the pod.
Yeah.
Yes, more to come. We'll have some regular check-ins. All right, guys. Much fun. Have a good night. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.